Welcome to the Solution Podcast, everyone. And today's topic, guys, incels and white women. I'm here with John, Michelle, and Hassan. This is going to be an interesting one. We're going to be delving into this psychological issue, I call it, the psychological problem, psychological trauma. Shouts to Hassan, shouts to John, Michelle. What's going on, my guys? What's going on?
Doing good, bro.
Hold on a
Can't
second.
complain.
Yeah. Same here. My children keep me motivated. So yes, that's that's always an amazing thing. A man needs that these days, especially living in a world where there's no hope. Well, it appears so anyway. But for me, as a Christian, there definitely is hope. Guys, incels and white women. Hassan, how you doing, bro? Can you say something, Hassan? Hassan, are you there? He'll join us in a second. I know he's probably busy with something. Yes, incels and white women, bro. Let's delve into this because a lot of people, you see, they don't really know what's actually really going on.
Well, I mean, we've got a lot of videos to show.
Mm,
But what I'll do is I'll tell you about how we came to this topic. Well, I I was doing a lot of research because we've been doing a lot of shows recently about the red pill.
yeah.
Then we started kind of veering onto incel culture, and then I even started to look into what they call black pill culture, which is another offshoot of this kind of incel um, phenomenon that is hitting young men.
Yeah.
So I watched a lot of videos. I researched a very famous incel who turned out to be a mass murderer. His name is, let's give his name so that people know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, just send anything through the private chat so I can
Yeah,
and I'll be able to
Elliot Roger, his name is.
So what's his name? What's his name?
His name is Elliot Roger.
Elliot Rogers. Okay.
Yeah. So I'll let you put that up first.
Did you send it to me, yeah?
Elliot. No, you can just type that into Google and it'll come up.
All right, okay. No, it's hold on a second. Elliot Rogers. My days. He lost the plot and ended up killing loads of people.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So he wrote a big manifesto,
All
and
right.
in this manifesto, there was some very interesting. He made some very interesting comments and observations, which kind of
Oh,
led me into which
yes.
kind of led me into you know diving a bit deeper into some of the mind state, I guess we can call it, that some of these incels have, because there's a couple of things that I've noticed, and I also saw a documentary on, I think I sent it to you as well, on ITV Plus about incels,
Hmm.
and on that documentary on the stuff I was reading up on, and in particular this case. So with this case, this is an interesting case of this Elliot Rogers guy. So he was half Asian, and in his manifesto, he would make observations about how, first of all, there's some noise I can hear in the background. Yeah,
Mm,
it's okay. It's gone now.
yeah.
So he made it. He made it abundantly clear that the only women that he was interested in was white women. Now, me personally, I don't. If people have their preferences, that's okay. But what was disturbing with him is that he also found the idea. I mean, he would get absolutely enraged when he saw any other non-white male with white women. So if you drove around and he saw black men with white women, or Asian men or Indian women with white women, he would get enraged. He would say, how can these guys get with these white women and I can't? And that would enrage him. And then when I started doing a bit more research, and it kind of leaked into some of the stuff we've been talking about with some of the characters that we've been looking into very closely. People like Myron Gaines, people like Walter, aka Fresh, and other people of that kind of ilk. They all seem to have this issue with dating women from their own communities and pedestalizing white women. This is what I was seeing.
Hold on, are you talking about that line? Are you talking about that line from Fresh and Fit where they say they don't double in the dark or something like that?
Well, not just that. Myron made a very interesting comment because what he tried to do to justify it is he said he wasn't going to go for a ghetto black woman. That was his thing. However, if you listen very carefully to what he said, when he was questioned on it, he said that I'll date a red bone. Now that suggests that it's deeper than just the fact that they could be ghetto. There's a skin complexion issue that he has the issue with. If you then make the statement you'd only date a lighter skinned black woman, then you can't really use the whole if they're ghetto type of argument anymore. That clearly shows a skin tone issue. And not just by what they say. If you look at the women that they're with, the women that they're constantly photographed with, all seem to be of the Caucasian persuasion, as some people would say. And as I said, when I was doing a bit more research among these incels and some of the information that they put out and what they believe in, there was this strange phenomenon of pedestalizing white women, but also having some type of hatred also at the same time, which I found that quite interesting. So what I'd like to do is kind of highlight with some of the videos I sent you, just to kind of give you a bit more background or some more information from other people about this phenomenon and why this seems to be quite an issue among a particular type of young man that is has an incel tendency. Let's put it that way.
I didn't think race at first. I didn't think race would have been an issue for an incel. But like you said, we'll be having these talks, these conversations, and yes, for some reason it seems to be. I don't know how prevalent it is all across the incel community, but from what we've been investigating, it's definitely race is definitely plays a part, and in how an incel views their relationship with women. Katie, shouts to Katie. Katie says, weird title, laughing out loud. We're breaking it down, bro. Just be patient. We're breaking it down. And feel free to add your 2 cents. If you disagree with anything, feel free to jump in. I'll send a link into the chat as well. But yeah, shouts to the Brogy. Not all true Caucasians of the Caucasus are white or light skinned like that. Shouts to you, the Brogy. I haven't seen you in a minute. Yes. Okay, bro. So first video, shall we get into that? Okay. That. Which one is and guys, this is not going to be a long stream either. All right. Got some editing to do. But all right, okay. So which one? I've got the list here.
Can you see go in the order that we were in our order that they were sent. The order that they were sent, I would go with.
So which one should I play first? The one at the top or?
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right, okay.
Want to spend more time obsessing over every stitch? Shopify's tools help you sell everywhere.
And this is fair use, everyone. Fair use. These videos
Fair
are being shown just for the purposes
After
of
a
commentary.
lifetime of exhibiting
Fair
serious
use.
mental health issues, hatred, and anger, somewhere in the dark, seedy corners of the internet, he emerged as a figure that would come to be more controversial than he ever could have expected. As he transcended mere anonymity and became somewhat of an icon among his online peers, he would set in motion a chilling chain of imitative, horrific crimes spanning a decade. This is his life story.
How long is this video, Nelson?
3 hours.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm
no, there's only a
a
particular
shy
part
and
of that. There
quiet
should be
guy,
a
but I have
timestamp
good
there.
qualities to myself. I'm a gentleman. I'm sophisticated. I'm polite, but girls never give me a chance because they're evil and cruel like that. And I will take great pleasure in denying you life. It's only fair.
I think it's out of sync, the video, Nelson.
Out of sync. Meaning?
Today we're delving into a really touchy and complex topic, especially when it comes to YouTube, the life and actions of Elliot Rodger. It's crucial to approach this topic by specifically mentioning that Elliot Rodger is not a person who should be admired. As you will come to see throughout the duration of this video, he is a very mentally ill and hateful individual with a troubled past. Rather than take responsibility for even one of his actions, he chose to blame everyone else around him, and that's what led to the events of today's case. Let me make it very clear that today's video is not to endorse or promote his actions in any way. Rather, I think it's important to look into these cases and find out what exactly went wrong. When it comes to crimes like these, the news media tends to blame one or two contributing factors when the reality is much more complex and nuanced. To write this video, I dug through hundreds and hundreds of pages of manifestos, police reports, diaries, and interviews. Just to make it clear from the beginning, some of the pictures that I came across were pretty low resolution and had some text imposed under them, but I've decided to include them regardless because, well, they're interesting. I've also decided to blur the faces of some of the people in this video. If their pictures were already widely available online, if they're
Yeah,
someone of a
Nelson, we can
public
kind of move
figure,
on
or
from
if
this
they've
one. This
willingly
is just a
spoke out about
background
this
into the
case,
Elliot
I've gone
Rodgers.
ahead and left them in.
Give me
But if
say that again, bro.
We could just move on from this one. This was just to do a background as to who that guy was.
Yeah. But where do we go?
Yeah.
What's the timestamp?
No, I said this one, I don't think there's a timestamp on this one.
Okay.
This was just to give you a background.
All right.
But the other ones are much more short and more to the
Basically,
point.
this is the guy. This is the guy,
Yeah,
basically.
this is the guy, yeah.
Yeah, and there was another guy as well because I do remember seeing a documentary on it, and there was another guy that also committed, ended up killing loads of people, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So are we going to a next video or
Yeah, let's go to one. There's some shorter ones there.
some shorter one? Hold on a second. There's this one here. One day before the murders.
Are you going to put the ones that I sent you? The ones that I sent you, Nelson, not these ones.
It's the day.
Not these ones.
You send
the
it
ones
to
I
me?
sent. Yeah, I didn't send you these ones. I sent you ones on your messenger. These aren't the ones. Yeah, this is the ones, bro.
Did you send it to me, bro?
On your WhatsApp.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
My bad, bro. You're right.
Yeah, I was like, what's
You're right. My bad, bro. My bad. Hold on a second. Give me a second, man. Yeah, talk amongst yourself. I'll line them up, bro.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. Yeah, but I mean, what we're highlighting here is that a couple of things. First of all, this type of this incel mindset, it seems to be there's a couple of factors that seem to be influencing these guys. One of them is definitely some type of personality issue. So whether that be Asperger's or autism, that seems to be something that correlates with all of the people that we've been talking about. And once a young man has these issues when it comes to autism and Asperger's, one of the biggest signs, one of the biggest obstacles that they have to deal with is social interaction. When you have these conditions, social interaction is very difficult.
Damn.
And then what happens at that point is they start missing a lot of the I guess you can say the the landmarks that young men go through growing up. So they can't interact with young women, and then they retreat into what we call a virtual world. And I think it's within this virtual world is where some of these racial issues come up as well. Because if you completely immerse yourself in the virtual world, especially when it involves looking at women or looking at pornography, you are definitely going to be more than likely to be, especially if you have that. If your preferences is for Caucasian women, you're definitely going to be entertaining a lot of images, many of them pornographic. And I think that at some point that turned into a fetish. It turns into a fetish. And I think that's where the issue comes from, where they become obsessed, literally obsessed with a certain type of woman who often tends to be a Caucasian. And that becomes not only the object of their desire, but it also becomes the object of all their hate too.
Yeah, because they can't obtain them.
Yeah.
They can't obtain them.
A part of me thinks that. Sorry, guys, because I've been my audio is not great. That's why I keep going on mute, and my connection is not great, so I might not be able to contribute as much as you guys are. But I'll try my best. But I think that just represents maybe a small percentage of what we would refer to the incel community. When I say a small percentage, I mean the social and mental disorder, or the social disorder. I think when I look at people like Myron, I've met quite a few people like that personality type throughout my life, and these are generally people who I find it there's somehow some way this outsider in the social setting, because of maybe their nationality, their background, and that inability to fit in makes them a caricature of the modern society.
Yeah, that's definitely a factor also, definitely.
Yeah, but why can't they fit in? This is the part that I don't get. Why can't they fit in?
A variety of reasons, because they're a minority. I know people, I've met many people over the years who the ethnicity of their partner is a vital importance and a vital contributor to their identity and self-value.
Right. Oh, yeah,
right.
You're right.
I know a lot of people who immigrated to Europe, who immigrated to the UK, of foreign descent, Middle Eastern and African, to be more precise, and they have these preferences. It's because they don't fit in. I know other people, and that point that JM made about don't dabble in the dark, but we might give a red bone a chance. I think that was the time. Red bone being a fair-skinned black woman. That was a key indicator of how that wasn't just a joke. It was an actual calculated expression of what he's willing.
Absolutely.
I think personally they're just fetishizing them. Before I give my opinion on this entire issue, I'm going to play this video first here. Hold on a second, guys. 5 central beliefs of the incel subculture.
What does research tell us about the beliefs of the incel community? Incel is short for involuntary celibate. These are people who are frustrated because they are unable to find sexual partners. A study in 2020 identified 5 central incel beliefs from over 8,000 posts involving over 700 unique users identifying as incels. Here are the 5 beliefs. They believe that women are evil, narcissistic, dishonest, and manipulative. The sexual market is unfair, and women have a privileged position in that marketplace. Males are being oppressed by women. They believe that masculine norms involving aggression should be legitimized, and they believe that violence is a potential solution to their problems. Essentially, incels believe that men are a marginalized group, and 2 groups are responsible for this: women who reject them and the men who the women do not reject.
Interesting,
We
isn't it?
can't make this shit up. What does that sound like? That sounds exactly like the red pill.
Interesting, isn't it?
What did I say? I'm never wrong. I am never wrong. Shall we play the next video, bro?
Yeah, let's do that.
I'm sorry. I'm laughing. I'm sorry. I
He's
shouldn't
on,
be laughing.
he's on the button though. He's right. He's on the button though.
Hey, bro, I didn't say it. Yeah, he said it, but I've been saying it for a long time.
Hispanics are almost completely immune to the black pill. Mexican people are all 5'4" and they have wives and kids. They're not impacted by this stuff because they don't have to play in this matrix game that you're playing in. Because a lot of them have healthy communities. You see them out in the park. They got their quinceañeras. They all date each other. It works out. But you can't play that game, white boy. Hispanics are almost completely immune to the.
Yeah, that's it. So that's interesting because if you have this obsession, and this obviously touches more on the incels that are non-white. Almost all the incels that are non-white are also they're the ones that seem to have more of this fetish towards the Caucasian lady, and this, in my opinion, is causing a lot of their angst and their internal struggle, because as the guy said on that last video, when you're not blighted with that issue, when you have no issue with your own, with not being, I won't even say your own, if you don't have that issue of just being obsessed with one type of woman, you're much more likely to have a successful dating career. You're much more likely to get yourself a girlfriend, to get yourself a fiance, to get yourself married and live a normal family life. You see what I mean? That's why once you go into that sense of fetishizing one race of women, you completely have narrowed your. That's why I think we need to even look at this idea of incel, because the definition in terms of involuntary celibacy is actually not correct with a lot of these guys, because some of these guys, they're only fetishizing one race of women, and they have no desire in any other type of women. They're not celibate. They're not involuntary celibate, because potentially they could get with women who are not in this one demographic, but they won't do it. They are only aiming and only satisfied with getting with a specific type of women. So are they really involuntary celibate?
No, they're not. I don't think involuntary celibate basically means they are virgins, and this is why I was harping on about that. Involuntary celibate does not necessarily mean they are virgins. It means they can't get the level of access that they actually desire.
Right.
No, but we are not measuring desire. That's the problem with this definition. This definition doesn't take everything into account, and that is the issue. When I look at people from different ethnic backgrounds, non-white people fetishizing the white woman, up to a certain extent. I mean, of course, all this comes down to men's lustful desires. They've engaged in lustful desires, and they usually take it. For example, when you come from a very conservative background, things like sex outside marriage, promiscuous behavior is looked down upon. It's not something that is championed in your community. So when you go through the temptation of, you're growing up, let's say you come across some corn, you come across corn and you see it, and usually what you will see is a white woman. That's what you will see, because that's what it is. Most corn is basically white women. Okay, the West basically, the West promoted it. The West basically made a business out of it. All right, through the sexual revolution, Playboy, and all of that type of stuff. And I think these people that come from these conservative backgrounds, when they come across that, they end up lusting after it, and they start fetishizing after the white woman. Okay, so they view the women as good and the white women as bad, but at the same time they have that lustful attraction for them.
Right.
At the same time they have that lustful attraction for them because it's someone that you can just use. But they wouldn't behave like that towards their own women from their own community. This is just something for them to kind of use, and
So
that's
that's at one level, but there are some, like for example, going back to Elliot Rodgers guy, he didn't just see them as people to use. He saw them as the pinnacle. He saw them as the top of the pyramid in terms of women, to the point that anyone that's non-white, he believed had no business being attracted, or she had no business giving time. This is how much he fetishized white women. The fact that a white woman would be seen with a non-white male, that disgusted him. Like, how could she do that? So it's what you're saying. There's an element of that too, but it's also an element with some of them where they really are pedestalizing them. They actually do see them as almost, as I say, the top of the pyramid.
Yeah, what you're saying is there's a spectrum. You're saying there's a spectrum.
Yeah, basically.
There's the ones that just want to use them for that guilt, for that that guilty pleasure type thing. They just want to use them because that's what they grew up fetishizing, because that's what they said every time they looked at corn, they saw white women. So there's that, and then there's the ones who, in a sense, fall in love with it. And they end up pedestalizing these women, or women of a certain.
I wouldn't use the word spectrum. I would use the word degree, because spectrum suggests an equal distribution of actions. I would use the word degree, meaning that, like a concentration. So for me, I can relate to a lot to what you're saying, because I've seen it played out on numerous occasions with people of a variety of backgrounds, mainly Middle Eastern and African. The reason I say that is because it was always a case of that actual genuine lust and desire was usually coming from a place of not sexual, but a desire to fit in, and it was specifically what Myron would describe as red bones and white women. Those two in particular. White women, because I think maybe there was a desire to fit into the native culture, right? To cement some sort of permanent attachment to the culture, to the society somehow. And the other one, I guess, is another way to just fit in, to blend into the crowd, I guess, and be desired by everyone. This is a genuine problem I've noticed in the UK with the Middle Eastern and South Asian community, to be specific, in my experience. This might be the case in the Black British community as well, I don't know. But in my experience, Middle Eastern and British Asian community, specifically white women, or fair-skinned Black women.
I think what you're describing, Hassan, is true, and it definitely is an issue. But I don't know if that's directly connected to incels. I think that's connected to people that just may have issues with their identity and the need for validation. With incels, I think there's also another thing we need to touch on is when some of these incels are also narcissists. Going back to the Elliot Rodgers guy, he used to call himself the supreme gentleman. That he literally believed he was a full-fledged narcissist who believed that he only deserved the best in life. So if you're in a society, a Western Eurocentric society that has elevated their culture, their race, you could say, as the pinnacle of things, which is what is indicated in many Eurocentric cultures. I'm not even saying this is right or wrong, by the way. I'm just saying this is what happens. They will pedestalize themselves. They will pedestalize, so the white man will pedestalize his women through poetry, through imagery. This is what if you're living in that culture and you don't understand what's going on, you can grow up. There's many men that grew up believing in Eurocentric countries, believing that the top of the pyramid looks wise, or what the standard of beauty is the European standard of beauty. So if you've internalized that to believe now that the Caucasian white woman is literally the best woman to get, and you suffer from narcissism, who are you going to only be interested in? You see what I mean? If
Mm.
you're a
Yeah.
narcissist and you want the best, and you're not going to see the other races of women as being on your level, they're going to be seen as lower. So you're going to go for what you believe is the pinnacle. And that also plays into, I believe, it plays into this fetishized of whiteness and of white women, is because some of these guys, they've actually deluded themselves that they are somehow at the pinnacle of the pyramid too. So if you've got two people you've got someone who believes at the pinnacle, the top of the pyramid, they're going to look for women who they conceive or they've been brainwashed to believe is the top of the pyramid, which is why they have a disdain for these women being with any other group of men who are not, in their minds, at the pinnacle. That's why this Elliot Rodgers guy was disgusted when he saw white women with non-white men, and would say, how could she go for him and not for me? You see what I mean? You see how it plays into this sense of narcissism.
Yeah. I'm trying to. I'm seeing. This. I like to use the spectrum analogy. Sorry, the spectrum word better, because there's there's the incel that admires they come to this country, they are in this country, and they are from a different, they're non-white. They admire they admire white people, and they look at that as the pinnacle and so on, and then they fetishize the white women as a result of that. And then there's those that come from very conservative cultures who just who are watching porn, and they mostly see white women, and they basically they want to have sex, or they want to indulge in that. So they look at them as something to just use and abuse and so on and so forth. So this two types. We have to get into the psychology of the incel, and what I mean by that is, yeah, involuntary celibate. But we've already agreed that they are not necessarily virgins,
No.
and we've
Well,
already
they're not necessarily, voluntary celibate.
Yeah, exactly. They just it just means that they're not getting the access that they actually desire. But
Right.
are they not getting the access that they actually desire because women are not going for them, or is it that they are so narcissistic that they view themselves in a certain light, or they want something in particular, that, because I doubt very much that these guys are speaking to loads of women. These guys are approaching loads of women. I doubt that very much. I don't think they are at all. So I just think that they have certain views. They have certain views
Yeah.
that are not necessarily, are not necessarily good.
I think JM touched on it perfectly at the beginning. He said it's the not developing organically at certain points in life, and then that becoming far more difficult to overcome as time goes on, and then that putting you into a false sense of pushing you to because the narcissism part is very important.
Yeah, but what does that mean? What does that mean, bro?
What it means is, okay, I'll try to make it as simple as
Not developing organically. What does that mean? Because they
sorry, Karen.
No, sorry, bro. Sorry to interrupt. Because not developing organically, it means something. You're interacting with the world. You've come into this world. You're interacting with the world. And let's say you are you're non-white. You're living in a white country, and you're going to interact with it. So, what does it mean to not grow up organically? What is it that happens to them? Because it's not happening to everyone. It's only it's happening to a certain group of people. So, what is necessarily specific about those type those type of people? What is it? Is it
a part of me, if I'm just gonna just brainstorm and just shoot whatever comes to mind. It's usually, in my experience, it's an overbearing mother and a passive father. You often hear Myron refer to his mother guiding him and telling him that women of the West being undesirable, filthy, low, and so on and so forth, and whatever and whatever. Every person that I've ever met in my personal life who can be attributed to some sort of incel, some sort of red pill, some sort of misbalance in the mind in terms of the way that they interact with the opposite gender and maybe inclined towards the red pill mindset, has always had an overbearing mother and a passive father, or emotionally unavailable father. In my experience, the father was somehow deficient in some way, maybe for a variety of reasons. I'm sure if we go into the upbringing of this guy, that the half Filipino, half the guy in the first video that you guys played, from LA, who shot up people, it wouldn't surprise me that his father was somewhat absent and that his mother was overbearing. It just, to me, in my mind, just to go with my gut instinct, it's usually sorry about the background. Sorry
Yeah,
about
I was just going to
I'll
say.
let you guys carry on.
Yeah. Could it be because there are cultural views that those incels, basically the families that they come from, they have certain cultural views about the other race that influences them. Is that where it comes from, or?
Well, I find that okay. Another thing I've noticed with a lot of these incels, they tend to be more. This is what I find, more to the right politically, and I think that is to do again with harboring resentment, to certain groups who they feel are doing better in certain areas of life than they are, especially when it comes to relationships. You can see how someone who's struggling with relationships looks across his school and sees a certain demographic of men having no issues in that area, and that harboring resentment coming from that. And again, do not underestimate the role that autism and Asperger's is playing in this as well, because one thing that, I mean, this is, you could go and research this. Autism and Asperger's is definitely prevalent within the incel community. These are young men that have got these issues that make them at the onset, they are struggling with social interaction. So they're struggling with social interaction. They become maybe bullied in school, or they're not able to maintain a lot of friendships, and then they retreat from that world into the virtual world. You see what I mean? And when they retreat into that virtual world, one thing they'll find reinforcement from other young men with the same mindset. Okay, but the underpinning all of it is anger. Underpinning it all is anger. It gets projected. It may get projected to people in other races. It gets projected onto the women that they can't get. It gets projected onto the men that can get the women. Ooh, noisy. It gets projected onto men that they perceive are easier, or have no women problems. You see what I mean? So there's a lot of projection of anger, and you can see now where certain groups will become marginalized in their minds. I can see it now why certain groups become marginalized in their minds, because those are people that they see as not having the issues that they have. Let's put it that way. Okay. You can see, yeah.
Taking away the autism, taking that out of the equation. Let's say he's just a normal guy. Is it because he's not being accepted by his peers in school? Is it because he's being, he's not being included?
Well, then you have to ask yourself, why is it being accepted by his friends in school?
That's right. So why would he not be accepted?
Again, it could be related to him having a personality disorder. You know how young children are. Young people don't have tolerance for young people that are different. Let's say that when a young person is around them that's different, or they perceive that young person as being socially awkward, etc., young people haven't got the tolerance to say, okay, well, he's a bit different from us, but let's accept him. they would tend to ridicule him, mock him, bully him. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, that's what children are like. And if
Yeah,
that
but
young person
what makes
becomes
them different?
marginalized,
What makes them? You see, I'm trying to understand. Is this something that stems from home? Is this something that you
but it
know
could
that?
be home, but again, it could be home, but again, it could be the personality disorder, autism, Asperger's. That could be it. It could be, as Hassan mentioned, the family dynamics that
Yeah,
have created a child that is struggling socially. And imagine if you got both of those things going on at the same time. And then, and this is the point that we've been making, if you're in a society where you're the minority too, you can see how that could impact that even further.
yes,
You can see how that will impact that even further. And it's
and
the retreating into the virtual world is a key part. That retreating into the virtual world is very key because that's where, unfortunately for them, they get worse. Because then what happens? They become, they go into very niche spaces with men with very similar backgrounds or similar issues, and it becomes an echo chamber. And then they start to just vent their anger, and no one's checking them.
and
And
I think it
unfortunately,
could
it can
also
lead
be,
to disaster, like it did with this guy here.
yeah, I think it could also be yeah, absolutely. I think it could also be the fact that they have a certain culture, but now this culture is engaging with a culture that's very promiscuous. They have a conservative culture, and now they've come to a culture that promotes this type of promiscuity, looks at it as normal, and they don't know how to fit in that culture.
Right.
While at the same time going through puberty, you're going through puberty. You're in conflict basically. You know, your parents are at work. You retreat into the virtual world. You don't know how to manage yourself basically because you have very conservative values, and you know your parents don't tolerate that, but at the same time they're not actually informing you or guiding you in any way, shape, or form. So you end up feeling awkward about the entire situation, and what tends to happen is they tend to access let's just say online pornography and basically develop these fetishes about certain type of women of a certain type
Right.
of race, and
Yeah.
then that can culminate into basically other things. So it's a multitude of things. This is what I'm hearing. It's a multitude of things that it could be. Um,
I mean,
that could make a man into an incel. Me
yeah.
personally, I think most red pill guys are incels.
But
Um, but
going
that's
back to what you just mentioned in terms of let's step out of the whole what I was talking about in terms of how they start to fetishize them on the level where they pedestalize them, and let's talk about more what you're talking about. Now, what you're talking about, I think that typically does the fresh and fits of the world. That definitely for me that falls into that category because every 5 minutes, every woman's a whole, every woman's a three or four. This is the narrative we get from these guys, Myron and Fresh and the like. People, not just those two, by the way. There's other in their little circle that they seem to hang around with. Women are three or fours. What did he say to the young guy? Assume every woman is a three or four. Yet who do they date? Who are they constantly around? Right? So that it's that dynamic as well of hating and loving at the same time. Hate, okay, that's what I won't use the word love. Hating and desiring at the same time.
that's right. That's right.
Myron hates these Western three or fours, but
But
Myron has in his what he says has spent time bedding hundreds of them.
how can you bed something that you hate so much?
Thank you.
How can you
Thank
bet?
you.
And then in the end, you're not even going to settle with any of them, which makes sense. Why would you settle for someone that you hate? You're going to go abroad and settle down with the woman that you perceive to not be HOs, to not be three or fours, and so on. So basically, just use these women. And then fly out to your own country and settle with women that basically that type of behavior. He couldn't get away with that type of behavior in his own culture. That's basically what I'm getting at. So because he couldn't get, so he's he's using the women. He's using the women that the Western world. I mean, up to a certain extent. I mean, don't get me wrong. I blame anyone that promotes this type of stuff. But up to a certain extent, the Western world does promote its own women as 304s. That's how they basically promote them. Through the sexual liberation. They basically
they cleverly do both sides of they do both.
Mm.
They either promote them as 304 or they promote them as the pinnacle.
That's
I mean,
right.
they very cleverly do. They cover both spectrums, as the word you're using. So yeah, they'll have they present them as 304s, but at the same time, they also present them as the most desirable.
That's right. Yeah, and the language that's used in the red pill community, not just by the host, not just by Myron and Fresh and all of these other guys. Just look at the comments. Just look at the comments. Just look at what these guys are saying in the comment section. It's the video that we reacted to, where the guy was basically talking about how the type of stuff that these guys basically believe in, these incels believe in. I mean, that language, that's the same language that these guys use over and over and over and over and over again. And when you just watch a red pill show, just watch the comment section, just watch what these guys say. Just look how they just look at how they address women. It's always with hatred. It's always they don't like us. They only like these type of guys. They are 304s. This is how they always address these type of women. Always. It's the same language. And this is why I call these guys, these guys that believe in red pills, incels. Because I mean, ultimately what they really want to do is do what? Is sleep with the very same women that they claim to hate.
The very same white women that they seem to hate.
Sorry?
The very same white women that they seem to hate. What they desire the most.
Yeah, which is absolutely crazy to me. I'm gonna play another video here. We've got another video to react to. Hold on a second.
I'm still sticking to my theory, by the way.
Yeah, but I think all of us are hitting and are covering. Yeah, we're all. I mean, that's why I think Nelson's right to use the word spectrum, because we're all
Also,
kind
I'm
of
trying to figure out
covering-
what the fuck
Yeah.
is with your obsession with trying to get white women to like you,
And why do they put them on a pedestal?
Yeah,
I don't understand.
I don't get that shit either. Like, what is this thing that it's like, oh, white?
Oh,
Sorry,
we can
guys.
start that again.
You told me when you're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's start that again.
Also, I'm trying to figure out what the fuck is with your obsession with trying to get white women to like you.
And why do they put them on a pedestal?
Yeah,
I don't understand.
I don't get that shit either. Like, what is this thing that it's like, oh, white women don't like? Why do you want them to like you so bad? What is
because
this obsession?
to the value of an Asian incel, they're so race obsessed, right? That I think they put white women at the highest of the totem pole.
Oh,
of
so
races.
it's like a fucking badge. It's like, I got a white girl as an Asian guy. Is that what that shit is?
I think it's like this. If the way that they see the world is different races have different value, and they see themselves as an Asian man has the lowest value, then obviously what they're looking at is women the same way. They're looking at women, white women, maybe at the top value, and like, I don't know, whatever levels that they believe.
Yeah.
So if they see themselves as low value on the totem pole, then they're looking at women the same way.
And it's very odd too, because
why would they see themselves as low
Very
value?
interesting.
Why would they?
By the way, what he said was very interesting, because when he spoke about this is not specific to Asian men. This is specific to all incels, I believe. I believe at the root of all of this, all incels have got low self-esteem. All incels have got low self-esteem. So what he's saying to me is not just specific to Asians. I think it's relevant to all incels.
It's a fragile ego.
Yeah.
I think that's a psychological definition of fragile ego. So they have a great perception of self, but the slightest conflict with reality causes a great amount of frustration, pain, anguish. That's why when you refer to the guy that was angry with women, white women being with men of other races that he considered to be lower or whatever, he took it personally. He took it painfully.
Right.
It's a self-aggrandizing, but it's also fragile. A fragile ego. If you can check that definition up here if you wanna.
It has to be
But,
that's one, because because just look at it logically. If you had such a low opinion of yourself, a logical person would say, "Well, I can't get the pinnacle. Let me I guess settle with someone of my own level." But that's when the narcissism kicks in, because it doesn't really make sense. If you consider yourself to be so low level, what on earth would make you think that who you consider to be the pinnacle would want to be with you? That's the issue. That's the mental illness right there. That's the mental illness right there, because it doesn't make any sense. If you consider yourself the lowest of the low, why would who you consider to be the highest deal with you? Why are you wasting your time fetishizing over women that don't view you as if they view you how you view yourself?
Is this psychological?
Yeah,
Gotta
it's
be
fragile ego.
psychological.
It's a technical definition.
Is it psychological?
Yeah, I say fragile
Definitely
ego.
psychological.
So people with fragile egos base. I'm reading the definition. People with fragile egos base their self-worth on the judgment and acceptance of other people, and tend to have an unstable sense of self result.
Right.
Someone with a fragile ego is.
What does that derive from?
For me, the root cause, if cause and effect, it's an overbearing mother and a passive father. That's what I've seen in my day to day. Every time I've seen an incel or somebody of this nature, their dad was a coward or emotionally unavailable. Their mother was overbearing and involved in everything that they do. And you would look at these men, you think, this is the man who has the characteristics of a woman, not in a derogatory way, but you would say you concern yourself with things that men don't, right? You concern yourself with fitting in.
In fact, if you look at the average type of delusion, when we talk about people who, as you know, people who are of a certain level but demand and expect relationships from people who are way outside of their level, that is mostly associated with women, isn't it?
Yeah, there you go.
Say that again, John Michel.
If you associate people who are of a certain level, but in their minds they expect and almost demand to be accepted and to be in relationships with people that are completely outside of their level, isn't that more associated with women than men?
Yeah,
it's mostly women that get ridiculed for this. Remember, Kevin Samuels used to always kind of highlight this.
Yeah,
you have this going on, but you expect this. You know what I mean? This is your life, but you expect a man to ignore all what your issues and all the trauma and everything you've been through. He should ignore all of that and not go with someone who doesn't have any of that. He should go with you. And the woman would say, yes, why not? So this is something that's been highlighted before in terms of some women are delusional when it comes to their relationship expectations. Now we're seeing the same mentality in these same men.
And Hassan, because I'm trying to get to the root of it. I'm trying to get what's causing it. Why do they have this? I'm sure it's a multitude of things. I'm sure it's not one single thing. And Hassan, would you guys agree that everything starts at home with how you're raised?
For me, it's an overwhelming
factor.
That's a huge factor, right?
Yeah, it
is. So there's something going. So when we look at incels, is there something going on at home that parents are not doing right? That's creating this mindset with these incel guys. Do you see what I'm saying? This incel mindset. Is there something going on at home? this is what I want to identify. What is it that's going on at home? Because I'm sure it's a multitude of things. It's you living in, it's the culture that you're around. It's how you perceive things. But I believe that the home prepares you to deal with the issues that you encounter outside. So most
Can
of
I
these
add?
issues will have to come from home.
Can I add
Something is
one
going on at
extra?
home.
Can I add one extra layer of my theory? Right, and my
Yeah.
theory is basically the foundation is overbearing mother, passive father. One indicator that may lead towards my theory being correct is most people choose the same race. They usually marry people of the same race. If you're choosing a woman of who's as far from your own race that you're from originally than yourself, isn't there a certain level of rejection of the mother? Like, isn't that like, I don't want anything genetically associated with my mother? Do you get my mindset? Like, if my mother is Chinese and I go for a European woman, to a certain degree, I'm
Oh,
trying to.
you're getting deep and dangerous there, Hassan. You're getting deep and dangerous.
Well, this is what I'm saying.
You're getting deep and dangerous there.
I can speak on this. I can speak on this because I'm mixed race. But
You're not an
I
incel, so.
do call myself black. My father is half Italian, half Portuguese, and my mother is African. Okay, African black. So I come from that mix.
But your father has got another black in him there.
Sorry?
That's another black. If you're not black, you can't get more black from a European. It's Portuguese and Italian. There's a lot of Moorish blood up in there.
It's true. I'm not gonna lie. But my dad did, he's had 10 children,
Right.
all black,
Definitely more.
with all black women before he settled
He's a
on.
more. He's a more. He does some more, bro. His ancestry goes back to the Moors. I know that.
Oh my day. So I can.
They were known for doing the same thing, by the way.
Yeah. So I can definitely speak on this. But yeah, I don't know how would that pan out, Hassan? How would that pan out?
Yeah.
You come from a strict, Somalian kind of background, right?
Yeah. Well,
You're
strict,
not,
I guess.
you're
Yeah.
not mixed in any way, shape, or form.
Oh,
Right?
me, no, ethnically no.
Yeah, and I agree with you that most races, black, it doesn't matter. Most people marry within their own race. That's just
Okay. What I'll do is I'll let you finish and then I'll clarify what I meant, because I know how.
No. I'm
my
asking a
said
question.
maths is
How would that work out? Because you come from a Somalian background. Let's say a Somalian guy marries outside of their race. How does that work out?
Well, we're Muslim, so the encouragement would be focus on the faith. Race is secondary, and it's culturally, religiously, is frowned upon to comment negatively on somebody else's race. I mean, even now, it's. I mean, okay, if you have certain the faith has been watered down culturally, but I think generally speaking, people just prioritize on religion. So are they the same religion as you? Are you Sunni? She's Sunni, and that's it. It's usually
as a Christian, that's how I move as well. That's what we prioritize as well.
In our specific case, we do have a lot of tribalism. So it's as long as it's not the wrong tribe, then nobody really cares to a certain degree.
But regardless, even with the religion, most Somalians still only marry most Somalians, right?
Yes.
Regardless of the religion, right?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So just like most black people, regardless of their religion, they're still going to marry most black people. It's just the way it goes.
Yes, and Somalis would come in.
Exactly. So even though religion is a fact, it's not really a factor like that. It doesn't really, yeah.
What's your perspective? Do you want me to clarify on my point?
Yeah, clarify your point.
I'll clarify. My point is, it's again starting from the mindset that it's an overbearing mother, and I'm basing it on my years of experience of seeing people who have similar characteristics to the incel community, or what we would describe as an incel, very same tendencies and personality and character traits in one way or another. In my experience, it's always been an overbearing mother, a passive father, or a father's emotionally unavailable to some degree. and the mother being really the forefront and the law and order inside the home. Sometimes emotionally abusive, sometimes inconsiderate, but to a certain degree living through her children in some way or another, going beyond her bounds as a mother, and having no dominant father in the household reining that in. Now, what does that have to do with fetishizing, or however that word's pronounced, or putting on a pedestal women of European descent or pseudo-European descent as well? Because Middle Eastern could be one description of pseudo-European or European adjacent. It's a desire, to a certain degree, to escape the clutches of the mother, right? Jordan Peterson covers this a lot, where how the mother can be so overbearing and cause suffering to their children by not allowing them to grow independently, not allowing them to go through the world suffering and making mistakes and learning from their mistakes and growing organically themselves, going through trial and error, going to school and maybe getting bullied, and maybe that's okay, and carry on, that the world doesn't end, and going for a job and failing or whatever, and going out there and encouraging growth within their male sons, or encouraging growth in their sons, not letting them grow, in a sense, living through their sons. And this has been my experience. That crushing emotional manipulation and burden cast upon the son through the mother. There's an expression for this, son husbands, they call it, son husbands, where the mother almost becomes married or attached to the son, prolonging his childlike and neurotic, narcissistic personality trait, well beyond childhood. Right? That crushing the emotional development of the child, which then allows them to have an almost schizophrenic, right, psychological development. And by that I mean you have this grand perception of self that's not based in reality. This overdeveloped image in the mind, which goes back to the narcissism that JM has mentioned, overcompensating for the lack of emotional growth and stability that they should have developed if they didn't have such an overbearing mother, in my experience.
What I'm hearing is, yeah, okay. I'm hearing a conflict. There's a conflict. There's a conflict there. There's an imbalance. What you've described as an imbalance between the masculine and the feminine, and that imbalance is what's causing this chaos within the child. That's basically what you're describing, right?
Yeah, it's the mother being so overbearing in the relationship, overwhelming the relationship, that it burdens the child and the son in this case, and it doesn't allow the son to just grow healthily. Like if you put your foot on a seed, it will grow, but it'll grow around you, right? It'll grow augmented and bent, but it'll still grow. And that is essentially the incel. The incel is emotionally, they could be 25, they could be 30, but emotionally, in some circumstances, they're actually 15 or 13 or 12. We can see that very easily with Kevin Samuel's examples of him speaking to women in their 40s and their 50s, and he says, "Look at these women. They're in their 40s and their 50s, but emotionally they're teenagers, and they think like teenagers." And we can see it very clearly.
But they are involuntary. But they're involuntarily celibate. Where does that come from? Where does the desire to, I want to have sex with other women, but I can't? Lack of masculinity in his life, or
I want to be loved and I can't.
I want to be loved, but I can't.
Yeah,
looking for love in all the wrong places.
Yeah, on Fresh and Fit, I guess, sending super chats and whatever.
But I think you made a good point. I think so. Essentially, what you're talking about is, I guess, well, really hatred for their own mothers, resentment for their own mothers.
Resentment.
Yeah, and that makes sense because then I've seen that. I've seen people have this internal resentment for their mothers and then seek partners that are the absolute opposite of their mothers. I have seen that.
Yeah.
So not particularly from incels, but I have seen that. So with the incels, I can see how that could relate potentially. And I also think you definitely got a point with the overbearing mother and submissive father. You can see how that could psychologically really damage a young boy if he's having to deal with that overbearing feminine, toxic feminine energy, and how that
Toxic
could really,
femininity.
yeah, how that could completely damage a young boy's mind.
Yeah.
I could definitely see that happening, and I have seen that happening actually.
But how do you go from there to fetishizing, let's say, white women, to sexually fetishizing white women?
Well, this is the retreating into the virtual world thing. This is why I think this is where that well, not necessarily, because as I said before, if you really grow up in a Eurocentric European nation, that's already going to be in the ear, as it were, already growing up. You're really going to associate, because of how the media works and how we've been socialized, you're already going to be groomed, I guess you can call it, to have that sense of white women being the pinnacle, the white standard of beauty, let's say that, the white standard of beauty. And it doesn't help, by the way, when you see other races of women who have also got these issues, cosmetically trying to mimic that also. That doesn't help either.
Yeah, that doesn't help either.
That doesn't help either.
With
so
the skin
this is what
bleaching and the hair,
although
the hair.
right. So if that also reinforces those, so if you're already in that culture, and then you dive into the virtual world, and you start to engage in some of the stuff, compounds it. Yeah, it definitely compounds it. Because all the, I can guarantee you right now, the top OnlyFans models who make the most money, and the top Instagram women that make the most money, I guarantee you they're white Caucasian women. I could put money on that.
But isn't that because we're living in living in a white country, the majority is white?
Basically, yeah. I'm not making any type of negative, political statement. This is just literally how it is. This is literally how it is. I'm sure in Japan, the most. Well,
would you guys say the most incels? Would you guys say that most incels prefer white women than?
Yeah, absolutely.
What's your question? Could you, is that your full question?
Do most incels prefer white women?
Yeah,
I would say so. But again, it's not the skin texture, it's not this eye color, it's not the heritage. It's that I want to fit in. I want to be loved. Because I'm saying, because I wasn't loved appropriately by my mother. That's where it comes from.
I don't know. I think it's a bit more degenerate than that. I don't think they are that.
I knew every time.
I think it's more degenerate than that. I'm not. It's. I don't think it's. I don't think it's always. Don't get me wrong. You made a brilliant case, and I do agree up to a certain extent, and I'm sure there's an element of that there, but. I think there's it's a bit more degenerate than that. I think it's a clash of cultures, it's a conflict, and they're trying to how do I say this? They're trying to assimilate into a culture that doesn't necessarily agree with their culture, and
good way.
And that causes all types of problems, and they don't know how to manage. If we're talking about a non-white living in a white country,
a good way to answer that question is historically, what does the Western white woman represent?
Status.
Right, there you go. That's it. That's the nail of the head. Status.
Red Ferrari, blonde
hair. Right. So historically, that's what it's been associated with. Status, high status men, that's their preference, usually speaking. So they've already got that established in their minds. You see what I mean? So remember, the red pill particularly is all about, you've got to be that guy. You've got to be that, you've got to be the guy, the top in the top electrons of society. You've got to be the 1%. That's what you've got to aim for. If you're aiming for the 1%, you've got to get the woman that the 1% get, isn't it?
And what else is it associated with? Status is one. And then this is what I'm basically trying to say. Yes, status is one, but the white woman has also been promoted as a whore across the Western world. Easy,
I
cheap.
think okay. So the promotion of the whole thing,
Yeah.
I don't think that's happened in public. I think that happens in how can I put it? It's not the case in what we call polite society. That promote I don't and I also don't think they're actually promoted as whores. I think that they have so much freedom that they're able to engage in anything they want to do, including the sexual industry, and so they have no barriers into that. A lot of them don't really have religious barriers, cultural barriers that stop them from doing that.
Yeah, but
And
yeah,
I'm not sure I would call that a promotion of them as whores.
Yeah,
I
of
just
course.
think that they're able. And another thing, they because of they also benefit from the other what we were speaking at in terms of the sense of status. So they can do OnlyFans, and this is why you'll see them on OnlyFans. Remember that video that we did, Nelson, when when the white lady was talking to her dad about how she wanted to be OnlyFans, and he justified it.
yes, I remember that. Yeah.
Right. So this is what I'm saying. So there's that sense of privilege almost there as well, where I can do what I want, and I won't be condemned for it to the level that other women may be condemned for it.
Yeah, but what enabled that was feminism and the sexual revolution. That's what enabled that. That's why I use the word. That's why I use the term promotion. They've been promoted. They've been and they whenever people speak of, I'm just talking about generally speaking. Whenever I hear people talking of white women, they usually regard them as easy. You can quickly have sex with them. They're not going to be that difficult. They are sexually, they're more, how do I say this? They are more easygoing when it comes to sex. They don't have all these issues like a conservative woman from a different country would basically have, or a non-white woman would have, that comes from a conservative kind of culture. So this is how white women are portrayed now, and I think that's to do with the sexual revolution in the Western world that that basically you know promoted white women as these sexual promiscuous creatures. That I mean, you guys, you know about the sexual revolution, what happened after that, free love and all of that type of stuff, that hippie culture, everyone was just having sex with each other. That was the biggest promotion. And this is the type of
Yeah.
stuff none.
Another thing too.
Mm.
Just another thing too, in terms of when we spoke about what they represent. Also, white women were seen as taboo in one point in history too.
That's right. Yes,
They
yes.
were
That's
seen as
before the sexual
taboo.
revolution. That's before the sexual revolution.
Before the sexual revolution, they were seen as taboo.
Yes.
And I think for some of these guys, they still have that in their psyche. That's their taboo. They're
No,
taboo also.
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
there's
Let
a
me just
sense
say
of
one thing about that. That's
forbidden fruit.
Yeah, that's
Forbidden
the
fruit thing.
status. That's the status what you mentioned earlier, and then there's the other side as well. So there's both sides. There's both sides
Right.
too. There's the one that
It's
came
a
before
strange
sex.
dichotomy. It's very strange.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's very weird.
yeah,
I've
and
seen I've seen that. I've seen that. If you don't mind mentioning, because when you guys mention this topic, I have a number of people just coming to mind that I've known personally over the years. You might have, I guess, met similar characters, but they would compromise certain moral values, and these are Muslim men. I'm thinking, not that these guys are a typical example of Muslims. They're not, but the ones I'm thinking of are Muslims. They would, and I use that. I mentioned their religion to highlight certain character traits. So the person I'm thinking of, I think I've mentioned him on the podcast, is a friend that I had that I didn't end up going to his wedding in the end. I think if you remember the story, if you don't,
I remember, bro. I remember.
yeah. If you don't remember, JM, it's not that important. But I've mentioned this person before. But he had an overbearing mother, and in a sense is a quite emotionally unavailable father. He got married. He's Muslim. He got married to a non-Muslim woman, who was already a single mother. had a kid outside of wedlock. Not that there's anything, not that I'm making the judgment that that's right or wrong. She's not the point of the story. The point of the story is he married her. She ended up cheating on him within a few months of the marriage, and then he went back on the straight and narrow in a sense from the Islamic perspective. Not sincerely, in my opinion, not willingly, but because there was no alternative. Getting a bit older in the years, got married to a traditional Muslim wife and had a very traditional Muslim marriage. And you would think this person that I'm thinking of was always religious, was always highly committed. It's just that the door to a modern life, a modern relationship was closed off to him. And the door was closed, slammed in his face in a sense. So this goes back to my point of saying that I think Octavio just mentioned a point a minute ago. I'm struggling to remember why I said the story. But the point being is acceptance and a longing to be accepted, and a deep insecurity that permeates throughout every aspect of their life, right? Is and the woman or the white woman or the Western woman or the woman that's desired in the West or whatever it may be, is what is just an extension of their insecurity, right? It's a woman that I don't have to commit to morally. I just have to commit to on a surface level. I've got money. I've got status. These are easy to acquire to a certain degree. Right? They're cheap and of love. Money is it's just an exchange for labor. You can earn X amount of money. You know, just get the right education, get the right. So most people get the right circumstances, and focus on this rather than that. These are surface level attributes that hold no deep value because they can be acquired quite easily. Real value is moral value, integrity, patience, honesty, dignity, saying no, and a variety of things. These things can't be bought, and but you can buy fancy clothes and nice place and so on and so forth and things like this. And the secular woman, I wouldn't want to say the European woman, because that's focusing too much on race in my mind. But the secular woman, the Western woman to a certain degree, is seen as an achievement because one, she has no sexual boundaries. Right? So she'll fulfill your lustful desires. Right? So you'll gain everything you want from her from a surface level. Secondly, she's easy to acquire, right? Because you can buy her with status and money. Your integrity, your moral background, how emotionally available you are, how moral you are, doesn't matter. And these things are far more difficult to acquire. That's why I wouldn't want to focus on race too much, because race, although it's an important key, it's circumstantial. If we lived if the colonies were the other way around and slavery was the other way around, then it would still be the same thing, just the race would change. But
what about?
Sorry. Yeah.
Guys, I'm gonna have to kind of I got a very early start.
Yeah, bro. I know you. Oh, I wanted to get into the white incel, but yeah, bro. No worries, man. We can get into that because,
We can definitely do a part 2 to this, by the way.
Yeah, we need to do a part 2 to this, definitely. But yeah, bro, guys, final thoughts, because I was gonna get into the what about the white guy? What about the white incel who, what's his story? What's his psychological issues? You know, I wanted to get into that, but yeah, John Michel did tell me he has to go. I was actually gonna say that. I was gonna say that before he actually mentioned it. But yeah, guys, final thoughts.
My final thought.
You go ahead, my friend. No, you go ahead.
Okay. It begins with me, and I'm basing it on personal experience. Every single time I see a person of this character, it's always an overbearing mother. The mother disappointed the child and was far too involved in their lives somehow, some way, not giving them freedom, not giving them respect, not allowing them to have boundaries, not respecting them as adults or adolescents, transitioning from children to adolescents, and the mother being incapable of accepting the idea that their child or their son has now grown on and now she'll have to move on to other things. Overbearing, far too involved, emotionally abusive, and the father being emotionally absent and also, sort of somehow emotionally muted in some way or the other. and then that instilling a crisis or fear, an exaggerated fear in the mind of the man, which makes him impotent, weak, emotionally unstable, threatened by women, which develops into a hatred of women. Look how a woman has ruined my life, made me feel weak, insignificant, or never respected me, never gave me boundaries. I'm threatened by this creature that is referred to as a mother, a woman, because the woman that I grew up with was so, not me personally, the incel mindset. It's so horrific and overbearing that I have to have this grand image and this grand plan to never be harmed by these creatures ever again, to the point where I must assume they're all 3 or 4. I must spin plates. I must do this, that, and the other to protect myself from this treacherous, dangerous creature that harmed me and my father to a certain degree. That's the incel mindset.
I think that the incel is an entitled narcissist, regardless of what race he is an entitled narcissist um who f- who is entitled because he fetishizes after something that he believes he's been promised. For example, white women have been you know looked at in a promiscuous way or promoted in a promiscuous way. So in a sense, due to his narcissism, he feels that he's entitled to that. He feels that he should have that, and he gets upset when he doesn't get that on the plate. So he ends up blaming all women, and he ends up gaining all this hatred. And I think is just an entitled narcissist who believes that he should have what he believes is his, because that's what's promoted in society. So he's not necessarily thinking about, okay, you know what, I need to find a wife, I need to, because all he desires is sexual access. That's what he wants. And I doubt that he would have the same mindset living in a completely religious, let's say take him back to 1940s. I don't think he would have he would have a similar mindset, because the expectations are different. People would look for wives, they would not look for promiscuous women to sleep with. But the incel is someone who wants to engage in promiscuity, and he believes that he should have what society promotes. And when he doesn't get it, he gets upset. Or when he doesn't get it according to how he desires it, he gets upset, and he becomes he develops this hatred for women.
Yeah, and I think, touching on what you both have said, I think that any child that is raised in a home where they grow up believing that one racial group is superior to the other, especially if they think that they're superior to their own racial group, has been completely failed by the family that they live with. Okay, and I think that is something that parents need to be very wary of. Be careful how you keep an eye on your children. Speak to your children, educate your children, because if you don't, okay, especially if your child is demonstrating any type of issue around ADHD, around Asperger's, autism, you really need to, at that stage, keep a close eye on them, because what you don't want is them to retreat into a virtual world, and all that happens in that virtual world is they get worse. They get completely worse, and we can see, unfortunately, what that can lead to. So, in terms of a solution, you got to you have to educate and keep a diligent eye on your children as they grow up in this world, especially if they're showing signs of social inability or social exclusion.
I hear that, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. But yeah, we're definitely going to go part two to this. Again, thanks everyone. Shout outs to KD, shout outs to the bro Juan, shout outs to John Michelle, Hassan, and yes, guys, and we'll see you next episode. Peace, everyone.
Take it easy.
Take it easy. See ya. Hassan, what's going on, bro?
We're still live, isn't it?
We're still
live.
Is that Hassan there? Oh.